City Library Board will come to order at 5:03 p.m. In attendance are Ken Hall, Larry Osborne, Cynthia Andrews, Scott Edwards, David Goldberg, Nick Berkman, and Carrie Linder, and library staff Greg Williams and Denise Butcher. Before we get to our agenda, I'll take a moment for introductions. Susie Jefferson had to resign due to work commitments, and we thank her for her time here. And thankfully, we had a very qualified candidate, eager to represent one of our out-of-city seats, who was quickly approved by Mayor Holliday. So welcome to David Goldberg. Thank you. And tonight, we also welcome our new library director, Greg Williams. Greg has tremendous experience working in libraries and in Clackamas County, including working at Link and with LDAC. And so we are very, very lucky to have him here in Oregon City. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you very much.
All right, our first item is approval of the minutes from last month. You should have received those via email on Thursday. Are there any corrections or additions?
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the next item is public comments. And apparently we are doing our job as no one is here. So we will move on to the next item, which is the library director's report.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair Edwards. Good evening, everyone. It's really nice to meet all of you. I've met several of you individually, but it's great to meet you as a board. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I'll give you just a slight bit of information about my background, just so everybody knows. As Chair Edwards said, I got my start here within Clackamas County Libraries, working at the Westland Public Library. I was an adult services / technology librarian. I worked there for about 8 years. Then I had the opportunity to move over to Clackamas County, where I managed the Library Network office, which is the office that provides centralized services to all of the Clackamas County libraries. So the courier service, the library system, project support, centralized cataloging, everything that helps a group of 13 individual locations operate as a single library cooperative. After that, I worked for approximately a year and a half at Clackamas County in the Business and Community Services Department, overseeing 2 libraries, the Library Network office, working very closely with the library district, the distributions, and also other departments, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation, County Parks, Economic Development, some others were in our portfolio as well. And now I am here at Oregon City, and I'm thrilled to be here. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So we'll get into the report, and I'm not exactly sure how Mo has done this in the past, so I'm just going to go through my report. If you have questions at any point when I'm going through it, please feel free to let me know, and if there's anything else you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to do so. So we'll start with staffing. We hired 4 new on-call library assistants, which was great. That's going to provide us some additional coverage for our circulation area, our circulation department, make sure we've got people to do all those important things, checking materials in and out. Training is underway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Almost done.
Okay, almost done with our training, and I don't remember the people's names off the top of my head. So.
That's okay.
But we encourage you to stop by the library, meet our new on-calls. Statistics. So the first thing before we get into the statistics, I know Mo had talked to you a little bit about the door counter situation. So as you saw on the statistics, you probably saw that the door counter numbers were blank. We did take a little time this week to look into how the door counters operate, what the setup is, and it turns out they have been overcounting. They have the figures are overstated. So the door counters can work in one of 2 modes. One is called unidirectional, and one is called bidirectional. Ours are in unidirectional mode, so they count a person coming in, and then they count a person going out. So every time you break the light beam, it's doing 1 count, 1 count, 1 count, 1 count. When you have them set up that way, normally you would divide the statistics by 2 to get your actual in and out number, the number of people coming in. that division by 2 is what wasn't happening for a couple of the entrances. So we are looking now to configure all of the hardware to be able to do bi-directional counting so that we'll have good statistics of people coming in and people going out. It requires a little bit of configuration, and we're probably going to have our facilities folks remount the hardware on the doors just to make sure they're oriented properly. But we anticipate that's going to be done fairly quickly. It's not terribly difficult, but
What's the impact on funding of the erroneous count?
there's no impact on funding. The distribution formula for the county is based on 2 factors. It's based on the assessed value of properties within the city, and also the population, your proportion of unincorporated population served. So there's no direct tying to funding. It's unfortunate, it's a great tool to tell your story about how busy the library is, but I like to tell people that's one statistic of many that tells a story of how the community uses the library. So yes, we will need to kind of restate that and have some talking points about that, but there are many other statistics that show just how busy and just how well used the library is.
So Greg, are there consistency in terms of the equipment for the 3 doors?
They're the same brand, they're the same vendor. The one on the 7th Street entrance is an older model, and the one on the Carnegie and the 6th Street entrance are the same model. So we are also looking to see, one of them is about 5 years old, and the other 2 are about 2 years old each. And we're looking to see what else is out there, what other hardware is out there, because after about 5 years, that's when you might want to look at redoing it. But we thought it was more important with the hardware that we had as quickly as we can to start getting those counts accurate. Yeah. So as we do that, we're also looking at other vendors and what other options are out there. And so we'll see what we might come up with. Any other questions on the door count? No? Okay. The other statistic that I just wanted to point out, you might notice that the sent to other libraries statistic took a little bit of a jump in January, and we were curious as to why that was. We contacted our network office, and it turns out the reason for that jump is that the Milwaukee Library, they were in the process of moving from their temporary location into their new location. And while they were doing that, they had put basically a moratorium on holds. And so the way the county system works is that every library, there's a list of libraries that fill holds. So, for example, for Milwaukee, when the system says, oh, there's a hold that needs to go to Milwaukee, who are we going to get it from? The first library in the list that gets evaluated is Oregon City. And so when Milwaukee was not accepting holds, there were fewer items being taken from Oregon City and sent to Milwaukee. As soon as Milwaukee opened back up, they had a backlog of holds. Those started to come through the system, and since we were the first library that was eligible to fill those holds, that's where the increase came from.
But we're concerned about the difference between the holds and what we send out. So
yes, the net loans and borrows.
So like the 3,500 number is what we'd like that to be 0, correct?
Ideally, yes, you would have your net loans and borrows equivalent to show that you're basically sending out as much as you bring in. There are many factors that go into calculating those net loans and borrows that might not be related to your collection development policies. So it's one of those, again, it's one of those statistics that there's some context there. There's lots of other numbers you can look at to also demonstrate how you're providing service. So I'll give you an example. So like I said, that we call it the holds fill queue. And it's basically the system decides who is going to be the next person in line to fill a hold. And if that changes, that could have an impact on those statistics. You don't change anything about your collection development. You don't change anything about the amount of money you're spending on books. It's just a system configuration change that has an impact on it. And so while, yes, it's a valuable statistic to look at, and it's something we watch pretty closely, I wouldn't say it's the be-all, end-all of circulation statistics.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that makes sense. So you're saying that it could affect both what we send out and what we receive in a sense, or not what we receive, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me see. Well, I'll talk with you more.
Okay.
I'm lost in that one.
Okay.
I got lost in this stat.
Okay. Other than that, all the other statistics looked to be fairly in line with previous months, previous history. I didn't see anything that struck me as particularly odd. If there were any questions about any of those statistics.
Greg,
Yeah.
two things. One, it looks like from the materials that have been checked out, we're about 8% above last year, which is, a nice trend. And that looks pretty consistent through that. The one thing that's not here that I'd like to see, and I know it exists because we were chatting about it before, and that is the funding. It just would be helpful to see the funding across the whole system and what share we get and what the assessed value is of Oregon City compared to the others, and then what percentage we get of the non-city residents. I just want to have a handle on that, and I haven't seen that.
We can definitely do that. We just got our distribution memo from the county, so and that has that backup documentation. So I can send that out to the group if that was something that would be of interest. So yes,
Basically, we get 2 distributions a year.
correct.
One when the big collection gets
Yes.
in, and then it's sort of whatever else comes in.
And that comes to the city, right? And then we get,
Yes.
Yes.
the city
Yeah.
pays.
Yeah.
So 2 distributions a year, one at the end of January and one typically at the end of June. And just like Nick says, by the end of January, most of the property taxes for the year have come in. And so the first distribution is much larger. And then the one towards the end of the fiscal year is just to catch up with everything else that's come in between about end of January and end of the fiscal year.
But just to clarify, we're really, the library is a department within the city.
Right.
So it's not, there's no separate operation from that perspective.
Do we see any statistics on the budget of the library? That's the one thing that is not here. Sort of what the budget was and what the actual year-to-date expenses are. I mean, I understand that's integrated into the city, and that makes it a little complicated.
So I don't have the background to answer. Maybe Denise can help what's happened in the past.
Every year
Yeah,
we
we
get a
have-
budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, and my anticipation is yes, the library board has a role, a defined role to advise and participate in the development of the budget.
Right.
So I anticipate bringing the proposed budget to the library board for discussion, review, take any feedback that we have, and incorporate that into our budget process with the city.
But right now, if there are variances from it, we don't see it. So the city probably gets involved in saying, how come you overspent or underspent or whatever it is? I mean,
We internally, we do look at that. So we get reports on a regular basis that, an account by account report of budgeted, actual expended, encumbered, and variance. And so we are looking at that at an operational level. That is something normally in budget processes with boards in the past, I would bring you on an annual basis and you just say, hey, here's kind of where we came in last year.
Okay.
Here are the accounts that maybe, we
Under the direct loans to the public, a total excluding e-materials, and then library to go. Is the library to go the count of e-materials?
Yes, Library to Go is our ebook and our ebook and electronic audiobook
Okay, thank you.
counts. Yep. Any other questions on? Okay. All right. A couple of building updates. We've had some building projects going on. We have recently installed additional sound baffling in the basement staff area. I don't know how many of you have had a tour of the building recently and seen the downstairs. There's some noise, it's all enclosed, so noise bounces off. So we installed some sound baffling to try to make it a little quieter for staff down there. I think that's working well from what we've heard. It wasn't orange. That was the big thing. So it's going on it's white baffling that went on an orange wall, but we decided to kind of brighten up the place. So it looks nice enough. We are ready to receive some new signage that has been on order for a while. One of those will be for the Russian collection in the kids section, and also some signage for the teen area and the Spanish collection.
Some circulation, directional.
So just more signage to make the experience for our patrons a little easier as they're navigating the library. Programs. We're excited. In March, we are going to be having our first teen writing contest. We're calling it the Write On contest. Teens will be encouraged to submit original creative writing, whether that's poetry, prose, they can do art and comic books. We'll have a template for that. So they will submit those. The entries are going to be judged and evaluated by our teen advisory group, which is fabulous. This was a program they kind of thought up themselves, and so we were happy to help make that happen. And then the winners of that will be distributed to our people who sign, to our teens who sign up for the summer reading program. So they're going to get a little zine with the winners of the writing contest. So the teens are going to be able to read the work of their peers, which is really fun and really exciting. So we're very excited to be doing that. We'll see how that goes. Our One City, One Book program kicked off in February, so we had a great kickoff event. We had a book giveaway and a mask-making craft at the library. So the friends were very generous in providing us some support to be able to buy 250 copies of the book that we're reading, which is Heidi DeRose, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky. At the kickoff event, we distributed around 100 of those copies, so it was very well attended. And since then, we have just been giving out copies at the circulation desk as people ask for them. We've had other programs related to that, related to our One City, One Book program. We had a First Friday film last week, which tied into questions of identity, which was very well attended. We're very excited. This is going very well. We will culminate with the author, Heidi DeRose, speaking at Clackamas Community College on February 27th at 7 o'clock. So we encourage everybody to show up to that. Should be really good. We're really excited about that.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is the public notified of all these things?
All these events?
Yes.
So, okay, Denise is going to correct me as I miss something because we just had our PR meeting with our PR person yesterday. So, first of all, we promoted on the city's website. So we have a library page on the library website, and we promote everything there. We have an email newsletter which has about 4,200 subscribers at this point. So we push information out that way. We have active social media accounts, so we post on Facebook. It's here, I think it's 3,800 followers, 3,500 followers on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, what was the other one? Instagram, we also do. For bigger events, we can also have the city. We can ask the city to help get out information through their channels, so they're always happy to help us promote there. We have in-library information. We distribute flyers to city buildings. We have some. I was just in Singer Hill Cafe for lunch today, and there was a flyer for One City, One Book on the wall there. So that's generally how we get information out there. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, other news. The EDGE assessment. So our technology staff recently completed a technology assessment. It's called the EDGE Technology Assessment. And what that is, it's a self-assessment that libraries go through. You kind of take a look at what some of the common needs are in communities as related to technology and access to technology. And then you do an assessment of how well you're meeting those needs of your patrons. So things like, does the library offer public access internet computers? Does the library offer Wi-Fi? Does the library offer classes in basic computer usage? And you can go score yourself on that. And since this is a nationwide library thing, you have great benchmarks to compare yourself with other institutions of similar size. And you can compare yourself within Clackamas County as well. So we have recently done that. I do plan to bring those results to the board at a future meeting. But it was a great assessment for us to do. I believe we did it a few years ago also. So that will also give us some ability to see what the results were a couple of years ago and how far we've come since then. So that's exciting. I shared a little news item there about a recent Gallup poll that you may have seen this, but a recent Gallup poll came out that when people have the options, when they're choosing an option for a cultural activity, more Americans choose going to the library than going to see movies. So I thought that was great. That was that certainly jived with my family's experience, but so that was very good to see. We had our first library district task force meeting, and I don't know if Nick is going to talk about that. Okay. We had our first library district task force meeting on Friday, January 24th, and I think everybody knows what this is about, but just quickly, over the past couple of years, various library district stakeholders have articulated some concerns or questions about how the district operates and what some of the challenges facing it are. And so the county put together this library district task force to provide stakeholders with a forum to discuss these issues. So we had our first meeting. It consisted of an overview of how the district works and some really powerful stories from library directors from across the county. So we heard from library directors themselves about the benefits the district had had, how it really saved library services back in 2008, and what it allowed libraries to do since then. We also heard a lot about some of the challenges that individual libraries face. There are libraries out there with funding challenges. There are, there are some governance questions. It's kind of a complex district that we work in, so that can cause some friction and some challenges sometimes. But it was great to hear those voices and to get everybody kind of thinking, how do we go forward? What are we trying to do as a library district? What do we want to achieve, and what are the challenges to us getting there, and how do we want to address those? So I thought it was a very positive meeting.
I was just going to add that I find it remarkable that there's been only a few amendments to the master's agreement. I mean, over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, it's probably time to take a pretty deep review of it. And I think most of the amendments really dealt with like Gladstone and Oak Grove and that type of thing, or Oak Lodge.
Yeah.
I think the structure of it is, obviously has been working, but as you said, there's some there are topics that need to be reviewed and addressed. And the good thing about the meeting was that we had very good representation from Oregon City, the individuals that are committed to be involved with the process. So that was really good too. It was great to see.
Yep. And it was on the representation. It was also great there were representatives from every city, and not just city staff. So there were city managers and finance directors, but there were also library board members. All the library directors were there, so it was a really good cross section. A lot of different perspectives in that meeting. So I think it's going to be positive. So. And then finally, I wanted to note, I know Mo had put together a calendar for the meetings for this year, and this month we're supposed to be some policies to review. So basically, there were 4 or 5 policies that I wanted to take a look at, and I couldn't do so in the 2 days that I had before I first started and had to get everything loaded into Granicus. I do plan to bring those to this board next month. Just to give you a little context, for example, the internet policy, we were looking at it, and there's some updates that are needed. We've got 4 different types of internet computers in the library that all work differently and all have kind of different access policies and how we expect patrons to use them. And I wanted to make sure that our policy, was really clear about how that all worked together. And so I just needed a little more time to kind of work through that. So I anticipate bringing all of those to the board for next month and the month after that, so we can review those. I just didn't want you to think I had just taken it off there arbitrarily. So
Take your time that you need to go over them.
all right,
Yeah, it's fine.
much appreciated. Thank you. And with that, I believe that's my library director's
Is there
report.
any more comments or questions for the library director?
I had a question relative to the community room. I know that's one of the policies, I think, that's been reviewed, and I know that there's been some changes made to doors and things like that. Are we going to see your recommendations in terms of how that room would operate? Is that what the policy's going to be focused on?
That is part of what we're looking at with that policy. Yes. So I know that there have been some facility improvements to potentially allow after-hours use on there. I do know there are some staff concerns about how we actually handle all that, particularly making sure that people who are using the room after hours understand that when people come into the meeting, there still has to be a little bit of monitoring, to make sure that the people who are at the meeting don't wind their way somehow into the rest of the library unattended. So we want to make sure we've thought that through, that we have a good plan for, ensuring that we can open up that room for use to after hours group while protecting the library and making sure that we're maintaining a safe environment. So
And I know that whole issue got started, part of it was around the neighborhoods that were meeting there. Are they still meeting there?
McLaughlin neighborhood is, we have not heard anything from Kenema this year.
Okay. I don't know if they've met or not. I have, but I just, in order for that not to flare back up, it would be good to have a plan.
yes,
So just a suggestion.
I completely agree with you. So
Okay.
currently our plan is Denise or I stay late to make sure that,
Right.
that nothing happens. But yeah, we do want to look at that and make sure we have a solid plan going forward.
Does either one of you know when the next library district task force meeting is? Maybe you mentioned it. I missed it.
I put in an inquiry earlier this week, and I've not heard back yet.
Okay.
So
It was not set.
It wasn't, okay.
At the end of the other meeting, then it was going to be scheduled.
yeah,
Okay.
I think the general intent is to approximately monthly, but there's about 50 people, involved in this, and scheduling is challenging. So I believe the plan is once it's a little farther along in the process, they will set a regular day. So
Okay.
we'll set, fourth Fridays at whatever, 2
Okay.
o'clock or whatever it is, but they haven't quite gotten there yet.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Then we'll move on to item 5, bylaws review and approval.
Okay. So, I know that, so in January, you had taken a look at the bylaws and approved a change to Article 3, Section 5 and 6, talking about the service area.
Correct.
Great change. So we had taken that change to the city attorney, run it by the city attorney, and said, how does this look? And the city attorney said, that looks great. By the way, here's something else you might want to look at. And so he pointed out, this is my understanding, if I'm misstating this, please let me know. So we took a look at that, and there was also another section that he recommended we take a look at, which was Article 5, Section 5, and it's how absences are dealt with. So the existing language of the bylaws basically said that it was a little unclear. It said that it implied that the library board would be the ones who would make a determination on how to deal with unexcused absences. And the city attorney felt it was more consistent with other advisory board practice that that's really a decision that belonged to the mayor. So this body can make a recommendation about what happens in the event of unexcused absences. That recommendation should go to the mayor. Since the mayor is the one who is appointing people to the advisory board, the mayor should be the one to remove those. So Mo and the city attorney worked on some alternate language, and so that is the amendment that you see before you today. And I am hoping that we are able to discuss and take a vote on that, and
Any comments?
allow that.
In item number 3, purpose, item number 1, there needs to be, just picky, comma, after maintain active communications with the library director, comma, library managers. The comma is in the wrong place, and it's a
Oh,
little bit
comma's in the wrong
confusing.
place.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. Oh, you're right.
Just, when you read
Thank
through
you.
it the first time, it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
Okay, great. We should be able to get that fixed
Sorry.
as well. No, not at
Never
all.
ask a former English teacher.
Okay.
On item 5.5, I thought that in addition to making the mayor the person who actually does the decision, I thought that the change from shall to may is a much better wording. That gives us a little option.
Yep, exactly. Yes, yeah. So it
To
leaves it
consider
the-
individual circumstance, yeah.
Correct, yes, yep.
Do we need a motion here to approve this?
Yeah, if there's no other comments, then, yeah, I think it's
If
fine.
no other comments, I'll so move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Right? The board approves this change to our bylaws.
Okay, great. So we will be taking that to the city commission for adoption. I believe it should be on the agenda for next week. So
Great. Excellent. All right.
With the commas?
With the commas.
I'll see if I can sneak the comment in there. We'll get it fixed.
All right, we'll move on to item 6, communications. Nick, did you have
Yeah, I'll
anything?
talk a little bit about, we also had an LDAC meeting. Actually, the task force meeting was on Friday, and on Monday, we had an LDAC meeting. So we spent the weekend studying. No, I'm just kidding. It was more just reporting, that meeting was. They talked about what's going on with Gladstone and Oak Lodge in terms of their libraries, and the agenda was like I said, it was primarily just reporting and got an update on the meeting from the Friday before, basically. But that was it. It was, and our next meeting for LDAC is April. Is that what we decided?
I believe you're correct. It might be March. It might be, was it the 5th? Was there 5 Mondays in March?
It does remind me of one thing, and that is that, the report,
Yes.
As a board, we probably should review that, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So,
And I do plan to bring that to the board. Should have that for next month as well.
okay. All right.
Greg, do you know if I was ever approved as the alternate?
I have an email from Mo that said, hey, this is something that needs to be done. So I'm working on
But
that
it
as
hasn't
well.
done it. That's
So,
fine.
no, once we get it from the city to the county, it should happen pretty quickly. So I just have to get it through the city channels first.
And the thing with the statistics, though, that the report that's going to the library district is that it does answer some of the questions about spending and that type of thing. So I mean, there's definitely valuable information in there if you want to understand operations better.
No.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Nick. Cynthia, do you have an update from the Library Foundation?
No. Yes and no. We had a planning meeting scheduled in January, but for various scheduling conflicts, it was canceled. So what we have done in the interim is to break into some teams revolving around the goals, actions, and outcomes that Karen Martini and I set in a planning meeting strategy session. So those little sub-teams are going to meet sometime in the next few weeks, and then we'll have a general foundation meeting in March, which will talk about the results of the sub-team outcomes, and then we'll get back to you about what those are.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Ken, do you have an update from the Friends of the Library?
Yeah, things are going pretty well for them. They're having a number of difficulties with their new space, but nothing appears to be very serious. They'll get it resolved. These are very bright ladies. The main thing different this month is they didn't allocate any money for any specific programs like they have several times in the past. So, which is usually what I tell you people. And all this, they're always looking for membership to their organization, and they don't have very many members to their organization. So they're trying to figure out how to get people to sign up and give them that $10. Yeah. Anything to add, Tom?
No, I think it was a good meeting. I think you're correct. One of the facility things, it's good that they caught it. Apparently, the heater, their thermostat, the heater was running all day and all night. So their utility bill came in a little higher than they anticipated.
They were ended up heating the whole building because everybody else turns their thermostat down.
Yeah.
And there's offices upstairs, and Heat rises.
Yeah. So they got that, and no, yeah, I think you captured it well. They're looking at ways to increase the amount of their members, the membership. So.
Yeah, and they have plenty of money if projects come up. And they've always been very willing to fund just about anything that seems reasonable.
All right. Thank you, Ken and Cynthia and Nick again for taking on that added responsibility as our representative on the board. We all appreciate that. Is there any future agenda items that anyone wants to suggest?
I'd like to make a request, but it probably need to decide if we really want to do it, but the BAM group, BAM advisory group, because accessibility matters. I think there's been some really good work done there, and I think it'd be great for the other board members to get an understanding about what's happening in that group. But that can be scheduled whenever, off into the future, but I would like to see it done.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, and that's actually a topic for sometime in the future I'd like to talk about is differing advisory groups and how we kind of coordinate that and make sure that we're all cognizant of all the advisory going on. So,
That's a good idea.
yes.
I think it's a pretty unique program from what I'm aware of. I don't know if anyone else has really been doing that type of work, so I think it's pretty exciting, actually. Low key, but exciting.
Yep, very exciting.
Particularly for us disabled individuals.
I think we're probably overdue for another field trip to Link up there. It's been a couple of years since we went. I don't know.
I never got a chance to see.
No, you never got a chance.
I was there, I think.
Yeah.
I was there.
And Nick, yeah.
So, yeah,
It's the
Carrie,
Clackamas
David,
County
Cynthia, and Larry
group.
haven't been there.
They're actually in Oregon City. So.
It's worth seeing.
We can definitely do that. I have a little poll in that office. So
Yeah.
I think I can get that done. So
When the weather's warmer, of course.
yeah, no, that'd be great. We'll try to get you in there in the if everybody can make it in the morning, you can actually see the sort going on, which is
And that's what's worth it. Yeah, it's really that's something
it's
else.
really worth seeing.
And that is when we were there the last time.
Was it?
Yeah.
All right, we can definitely schedule that. That would be great. And then Nick, did you want to talk about the tour we took at CCC?
I'm concerned I might be overselling, so I'll let you talk about it.
Oh. I thought it was great. So thanks to Nick. Nick arranged a tour for us for Clackamas Community College's brand new Industrial Technology Center, and part of which is a makerspace that they have there. And so, as you may be aware, there are many libraries who are exploring or have implemented makerspaces. And that was something that we were looking at when we were designing the building. It's something we're still looking at. So we wanted to get some ideas about what a really cool makerspace would look like. So Nick was able to arrange it. And my goodness, it is a very cool makerspace. They've got some industrial strength size 3D printers, which can generate objects out of. In these, we saw it was not just your regular plastic, but it was some plastic carbon fiber combination, which was really fascinating. They had laser cutters, they had a plasma cutter, they had they had presses and CNC machines, lots of stuff. It was great. And part of their mission when they set this up is to also, not only to have this be supporting their students for curriculum support, but also to be able to support the community. So to have a community use aspect to it. And so they're still kind of in the process of setting it up, but it was a great opportunity for us to meet them. So we can start thinking about, are there partnership opportunities, or at the very least, is this a resource that when people come to the library saying, hey, do you know where I can get a plasma cutter? Well, we don't have one here, but we can get you up to Clackamas Community College. We learned about some of the software that is being used in the industry, some 3D CAD, some CAD software. There's apparently a program that is now fairly widely used, which is also free. So that's always something I like to hear.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was really interesting and gave us some really good ideas about how we might move forward with
It's way beyond what we could do.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not even. It probably is has the potential to be one of the best maker spaces in the whole area. Really, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's really,
and
really great.
The whole center, I was really struck from a economic development and a workforce development perspective. I mean, it's it's fantastic what they've been able to do there, so.
Great.
I'd like to see sometime in the future, it isn't urgent. I know last year, the library was making an effort to reach out to people with disabilities and various levels of ability in using library materials and facilities. Plus, it's been a while since we emphasized the teen LGBT collection, and I'd kind of like to know how that all went. What was the outcome of the, investment of time, talent, and treasure in those efforts? And I'm not looking for any problems, just like a report out of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not urgent, like I said, so.
Okay, no, we can definitely do that, so. I think BAM, the because accessibility matters advisory group, that was one of the things that I understand came out of that process, and that's been really good success. So we'll bring some more information, and yes, and I believe we have the teen LGBT. Yep.
Yep, it's been done for a while.
Okay. Yes, we can definitely bring back some information on that.
Is there any other comments or unfinished or new business? All right, since there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.